Shalom. All praise, glory, and honor goes to Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, Waha Raka Kwedash. Double honors to the men who taught me this truth, the apostles and elders of the great millstone, and also peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying and bring them to their place. And that comes from Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 2. Isaiah 14 and verse 1. For the Lord, Yahweh, Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. It says the Most High, Yahweh Ba Hashem Yahweh Shai, will have mercy upon Jacob and will yet choose Israel, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. So Israel as a whole shall receive mercy. All right, and that mercy is going to come through Yahweh Shai, delivering the elect. It says, and set them in their own land, all right, which is Israel. It says, and the strangers, which are the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites, shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Verse 2, and the people shall take them, and that people is speaking of the Israelites, specifically the elect of the nation of Israel. And the people shall take them, and the them is the Edomites, all right, the so-called modern-day white race. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And what is the rightful place of an Edomite, a so-called modern-day white person? The scripture tells us in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, and verse 7, it says, be not deceived. The Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. All right. So when it's concerning the man of sin, the son of perdition, all right, that wicked one, the wicked that the Bible speaks of, the wicked, all right, which is the modern day so-called white race, beginning with the top tier elites, everything that they have put forth, they're going to receive it back. All right. The scripture tells us in Revelation 13, 9 and 10, it says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. All right. You reap what you sow. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. You reap what you sow. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And when it's concerning Esau, Edom, the so-called modern-day white race, beginning with the top-tier elites, that's what they have put forth, all right? Captivity. And that captivity mainly falls upon you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, on down to you so-called Mexicans, which are the Hebrew Israelites, all right? And they still have us in bondage right now. It may not be hardcore physical bondage, but they have other ways to keep you in bondage, all right? Such as debt, okay? And we're still slaves because of Social Security cards, okay? Birth certificates, okay? We still have a number, okay, that they classify us up under, basically as a slave. So it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. All right. So this is something that we're patiently waiting upon. All right. And to have patience basically is to suffer. All right. So we have to suffer seeing an Edomite walk around free. Okay. And not be in chains. All right. Be in their rightful place. Because the scripture says in Galatians 6 and 7, you're going to reap what you have sown. And this is what these people have sown, mainly upon our backs. Okay? And we know that this is a violent man. This is a bloody man. This man can't do nothing without him having his sword. Okay? And the modern day sword is the gun. So that's another action that they have put forth. All right? Shedding innocent blood. All right? That's why the scripture says the lands cannot be cleansed. All right? Roughly paraphrasing, of the blood that is shed, but except by him that shed that blood, his blood shall be shed to cleanse the blood that he have shed. All right, roughly paraphrasing the scripture. So Esau, Edom, all right, is going to pay in blood. Okay, that's what he have put forth, and that's what he's going to receive. So going back to Isaiah 14 and verse 2, it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. So the rightful place of an Edomite, a so-called modern-day white person, is captivity. The scripture tells us in the book of Genesis, chapter 25, and verse 23, all right? And this is concerning the main two people in this movie, all right? Esau and Israel, okay? Genesis 25 and 23, it says, and the Lord, Yahweh, Baal Hashem, Yahweh said unto her, all right, and that her is Rebekah, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. All right, one of a righteous seed and one of a wicked seed. Okay, it says, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people. All right, it's obvious that we're stronger than these Edomites, these so-called modern-day white people. It says, and the elder shall serve the younger. So Esau came out first. All right, and our forefather Jacob came out second. Okay, so the scripture says, and the elder shall serve the younger. This is a prophecy that will be fulfilled, all right, very, very soon, where Esau is going to be put in his rightful place. Him being the elder, all right, or the first child that came out, okay, and Jacob being the second child coming out. That's why the scripture says Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Okay? So this is the rightful place of an Edomite. And the elder shall serve the younger, meaning be a slave of the younger. And once again, the younger is our forefather, Jacob, which later on name was changed unto Israel. All right? And he had 12 sons, and through his 12 sons, Israel began. And once again, this prophecy is going to be fulfilled very, very soon. That's why the scripture says, here is the patience and faith of the saints. All right? Because it's in the Most High's time, not our time. So we must pray for an increase of patience. All right? The capability to endure this hardship, having a base man to rule over us, knowing that his future is to be under us. All right? The scripture says in Malachi chapter 4 and in verse 3 it says, and ye shall tread down the wicked. It says, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord, Yahweh, Baal Hashem, Yahweh of hosts. All right? So the Most High is going to allow the devil that the Bible speaks of, a base man that rules over us right now, to be under our feet. All right? Basically to be our slaves. So let's go back to Isaiah 14 and 2. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. All right. The elect shall take these Edomites and bring them to their place. It says, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, for servants and handmaids. All right. Male servants, male slaves, female servants, female slaves. It says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. Once again, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. It says, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So, who is our number one oppressor? Esau. All right. Which comes in the form of the so-called modern-day white race. All right. That's why the scripture says you're going to reap what you have sown. All right. We're on the bottom right now. All right. So we must be placed on top. It says, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. All right. And that's here mainly in America. And that's the day we're patiently waiting upon. All right. And that's the day that Esau will be taken out of rulership. All right. And the crown be placed upon the head of his rightful owner. All right. Which is beginning with the elect of the nation of Israel. That's why we got the greatest hope upon the planet, to be a part of the next rulers of the planet under Yahweh Shai, which is the elect. All right. So that's the proper place of an Edomite, which comes in the form of the so-called modern day white race. All right. To be a male slave and a female slave. All right. Under us. All right, for us to put these devils in chains. That's the rightful place, all right, for a wild animal. So, Lord willing, I pray that this made sense and that this was edifying